I'm expecting a rock fight on Sunday afternoon.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, let's do this, everybody. Matt Derry with you on a Friday edition of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today is Friday, September 20th, and due Saturday, September 21st. Thanks for making us your first listen and checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. Shout out to our everydayers. Thank you to those of you that watch on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel or listen. Like I said, wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Apple or Spotify. A couple of everydayers that are out there that I've got to give a shout out to. My main man, Chauncey D. Williamson. Chauncey is heading out to Arizona to see his beloved Honolulu Blue and Silver Gladiators out in the desert. So he's going. So shout out to Chauncey. The great Mark Lane. Talked to Laney today, an everydayer that watches the show. Eric Lash, who I met today, big Lions fan. And also Keith Yackley. Keith is my boy over at Argus Logistics in Troy that also features the legendary Lady in Red, Sarah Frazier. But Keith is my guy. Love you, Keith. Thanks for having my back, as always. Locked On Lions today, brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Coming up on the show today, I was asked today by another everydayer, the legendary Chris Druin, are you still picking against the Lions? What do you think? I just have no feel. I think Sunday is going to be a close game. But what's your feel for Sunday? A couple of things I want to get into. We will do that. Injury report. A surprise injury has popped up on the Cardinals injury report, which is going to be a big problem for Arizona if this guy does not play. We're going to get into that coming up in a little bit. Chris Long from the Green Light podcast, the former Super Bowl champion, had a very interesting suggestion about what the Lions should be doing around the trade deadline, something he's seen the first 2 weeks. We will get into that. And we also have a call of the day today from our SpeakPipe. If you go on the voicemail system that we have, it is speakpipe.com/Derry podcast page, DERY podcast page. You too can leave a voicemail and we will play it on the air. The best one. So we have a call of the day submission for today. All right. I've watched film. I've read. I've talked to people. I was on the Arizona Cardinals radio show the other day that they do internally with my buddy Craig Grialou, formerly of WAR in Syracuse, former classmate of mine, class of 96, by the way. We were just talking about this Cardinal team. I feel like Art Regner. This Lions team, this Cardinals team is good. And I know they're not getting a lot of love nationally. And I know some people think they're a year away. But I think the Lions are in for a dogfight this Sunday. I truly believe that. Look at what Arizona's done the first 2 weeks. They went into Buffalo. They led 17-3 in that game and let it slip away, only to lose 34-28. Last week, they pummeled. They poleaxed. They dropped a big leg on the Rams, 41-10. And they're young still, yes. And I know last year their run defense was last in the league. They gave up 143 yards a game on the ground. We know the Lions are going to try to run the football and get back to what they do best. And right now, the Cardinals, I believe, they only gave up 53 yards rushing last week to the Rams because the Rams started throwing the ball a lot. But I think there's still some holes there, especially defensively for Arizona. But going out west, having to make the long flight, your body clock's kind of messed up. You're on Pacific time out there. And you've got to be chasing around Kyler Murray. You've got to account for Marvin Harrison Jr. They've got multiple tight ends that they use. That Greg Dortch guy in the slot is very good. James Conner out of the backfield. And they have a weapon at kicker with Matt Prater in case they need a long field goal. We know how good Matt is. So, and Budda Baker on their defense is really good. I just think it's going to be a tough game. I just believe that Arizona is well coached. I think the Lions offense is ready for an explosion. I mean, the first 2 weeks, We've got to say they've underachieved. Their quarterback, Jared Goff, has not looked like himself. First couple of weeks, a lot of offenses don't look like themselves. I mean, I was watching the Jets-Patriots game last night. They put up the stat about all these field goals that are being kicked. Teams in the red zone have been sucking all across the league. But the Lions have Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I think he's going to be a guy that is going to give Arizona fits this coming Sunday. And now that he kind of has a better game off his belt, he's coming off a double-digit catch game, and he's getting that rhythm back with Jared Goff. You throw in Laporta, who you know Goff is going to be looking more for this week. And again, with Budda Baker as kind of this roaming safety, sometimes he takes away the tight end. But Arizona's scrappy, man, and they're talented, and everybody's been talking about it, and we talked about it yesterday on the crossover. In case you missed it, go back and watch it or listen to it with Alex Clancy from Locked On Cardinals. Kyler Murray is a weapon. He's elusive. He makes plays, and just when you think you've got Murray bottled up, he gets out of it somehow. He runs, he throws, and he looks like the guy that they paid a lot of money to last offseason. I mean, he had a perfect passer rating this past Sunday against the Rams of 158.3. And we've been sitting here the first 2 weeks talking about how Jared Goff just doesn't look the same. I heard a clip the other day. Goff was, I think it was on TikTok or something. Goff was talking to the midday show at the Ticket. I guess he's on there every week about just rhythm and pace and feel. And he knows he's not played well. Be different if he was blaming somebody else or saying, oh, no, it's just rust. He's like, he knows he has to be better. But I think I'll take the Lions Sunday. I think they're going to eke it out. But I think it's going to be close. I think this is a 24-23, 27-26 type game where it's going to take all four quarters. It's going to take the defense having to continue to step up and make plays and make stops and get stops. But I think there's just going to be some opportunity Sunday where Murray escapes and works his magic. He's a good football player. And those games that the Lions have played out in Arizona have always been weird games. Remember the tie to open the season years ago? The Lions blew a big lead and the Cardinals came back and won. I think that was Kyler Murray's first game, if I remember correctly. But it is a good team that, like I said, you could make the argument because they led in the second half in Buffalo before kind of cowering a bit. I mean, they were up 14 in Buffalo and they just blew out the Rams this past week. They just play pretty sound football. And James Conner's a good back. We mentioned Marvin Harrison Jr. before. Kind of broke out last week with 2 touchdowns. So we'll see where this thing goes. But I think it's going to be a very entertaining game. And I looked at the schedule when it first came out, and I said, this is dangerous. It's a dangerous game. When you play your first 2 at home, you've got your crowd, and you've got the Sunday night game, and then you got a rematch against Tampa. Then you kind of have to go on the road for 1 week because you're back home next week too. It's kind of a tricky game. And it just never seems easy to me to head west and win. And last year I watched a lot of Cardinal games. They only won 4 games, but you saw a difference in what Jonathan Gannon and his coaching staff have done with that team. So they kind of have a little bit of a lion feel to them in terms of just like where the Lions ascended. Cardinals, I think, are an ascending team. But I also think the Lions are going to get back to running the football. Montgomery some touches, Gibbs some touches. I think we're going to see more of that Cardinals run defense from last season that was worst in the league, giving up yards per game than we've seen the first couple of weeks. A major injury hit the Cardinals injury report. We'll also tell you the latest on Alex Anzalone, Gaines Media's Alex Anzalone. We'll do that coming up next right here on Locked On Lions. Folks, we've been telling you about this forever. If you are looking to put money down on any kind of action, NFL, MLB, whatever it is, you got to do FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we got something a little bit different for you that is running now through Sunday. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV-based plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. How cool would that be to have that for this weekend for the 1:00 games as you're waiting for the Lions, who come up at 4:25? All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. Tonight, Tigers in action against the Orioles on Apple TV. You want to put some money down on the Tigers, who all of a sudden are playing great ball? You can do that as well. At FanDuel.com, again, that's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, folks, it's a Friday Locked On Lions, Locked On Podcast Network. If you missed Tuesday's show and you missed Dave Pasch, who is the voice of the Arizona Cardinals and one of the voices on ESPN for college football, he was on Tuesday. Alex Clancy from Locked On Cardinals, he and I did the crossover yesterday. Go back and check those out. Really good shows this week. Next week, we're going to hit up our boy Dalton from PFF. Do the crossover with Seahawks. Get ready for Detroit and Seattle. Monday Night Football next week, by the way. All right, injury report. And here's the big news. Did you tell Clark the big news? For all you vacation fans out there. Kelvin Beachum, we've been talking about this. Aiden Hutchinson, the first 3 weeks, has faced backup right tackles in all the games. Rams, of course, had their backup right tackle start week 1. Bucks didn't have Luke Gedeke last week, so they had their backup out there, Justin School. This week, Jonah Williams is out for the Cardinals. And today, Kelvin Beachum missed practice. He was not spotted by Cardinal reporters. He was not in the injury report on Wednesday. Thursday was limited due to a hamstring, and today did not practice. The Cardinals are listing Beachum, the veteran, as questionable with this hamstring. Could we be down to the third string right tackle for the Cardinals this Sunday? Talk about Aiden Hutchinson just eating. My God. If Beachum is out and can't go and that hamstring keeps getting worse, Jackson Barton, who has been elevated from the practice squad when Jonah Williams got hurt, would be the guy at right tackle. He has played a total of 6 snaps in 2 NFL seasons. 6. So you have to figure that Hutchinson and the Lions are going, oh man, another break here if Beachum is out. Again, Beachum is your basic swing guard tackle type, been around the league a long time, has started plenty of games in the NFL, but he's got a hamstring injury. So keep an eye on that the Aiden Hutchinson could be facing a third string right tackle. Now, remember, when he faced A.J. Arcuri in week 1, it was the third string left tackle for the Rams. They moved Hutch to the left side, and he went crazy. So keep that in mind. Also, as far as Cardinals injuries, Greg Dortch, their wide receiver, hamstring, but was limited today, did practice. And defensive lineman Dante Stills, a shoulder, questionable. Lions have announced today 2 guys definitely out for Sunday. Ife Melifonwu's had that bad ankle for weeks. He remains out, hasn't practiced in weeks. So hopefully get Melifonwu back soon. Ennis Rakestraw, who injured his hamstring in workouts last Sunday before the Lions-Bucks game, he didn't practice all week. The Lions are listing him as out. Good news, Graham Glasgow back at practice today. Dan Campbell says he's fine. He will play, listed as questionable with a sore knee for Sunday. Alex Anzalone, Gaines media poster boy and Lions defensive captain, cleared concussion protocol, limited to practice today, questionable for Sunday. You got to figure he'll play. Terrion Arnold's been sick this week, didn't practice the first 2 days, practiced today, also questionable. And Isaiah Williams, who had an abdomen injury and missed last week, also is questionable. But Marcus Davenport, Kirby Joseph, Amon-Ra St. Brown, now off of the injury report and all expected to go Sunday when the Lions face the Cardinals. So some good news. And I said this the other day, Anzalone is a guy that just is a very, very good leader out there. And when you're playing a quarterback and a guy like Kyler Murray that can really run, scramble, and make plays, you need linebackers with instincts. You need linebackers that can run the quarterback down or at least harass him. And, Alex Anzalone has been a guy over the last couple of years. It's just keeps getting better. And you love the veteran presence. You love the leadership. and you need him out there. So good news. He suffered that concussion last Sunday. Sounds like going is questionable that he will be able to play this weekend. I don't think it's 100% that he's playing, but listed as questionable, not doubtful, is a big step forward for this Lions team. And the defense has played well the first 2 weeks. There's been some plays that they haven't made. There's been some stuff that's been sloppy, some miscommunication, like on the Chris Godwin touchdown last week. But for the most part, big picture, I think the defense has done its job. The issue has been more or less the offense and just the inconsistencies there. Now, speaking of the offense, my brother is a huge fan of the Green Light podcast with Chris Long. Some guy Macon is on the show. I don't listen that much, but my brother sent me a clip. Chris Long loves talking about the NFL, of course, former Philadelphia Eagle, edge rusher and defensive end, spent some time in New England as well. And he does a very, very good podcast. Chris Long was talking about the Lions and what he has seen on film for the first 2 weeks. He made a suggestion. He said on his show, and again, it's on the Green Light podcast, that he could see a scenario where at the trade deadline, the Lions go out and make a move and make a trade for a wide receiver. We know about Amon-Ra St. Brown. We know Jamison Williams has had a first couple of good games. Khalif Raymond has been fine, but the Lions might be in the need as we get closer to the trade deadline in a few, month and a half or whatever. Lions could be in the market for a receiver. And Chris Long suggested that the Lions pick up the phone and call 2 teams. And it's 2 teams that the Lions have done business with before. Number one is Cleveland. Remember last year, Brad Holmes talked to Andrew Berry, the Browns GM, and they made the trade for Donovan Peoples-Jones. Amari Cooper seems to be not being phased out, but is a little unhappy, not getting the ball a lot. There's something brewing with Cooper and the Browns. Could the Lions go after a guy like Amari Cooper? That was something that Chris Long suggested could be a scenario around the deadline. The other name he brought up was Courtland Sutton, who on numerous occasions you've seen reports the Broncos have been shopping their veteran wide receiver, Courtland Sutton. Denver off to an 0-2 start. That team needs to keep getting younger. Lions, of course, talked to the Broncos. They picked up Tim Patrick. So 2 very interesting pieces. Again, I'm pumping the brakes on making any moves yet. I don't think the Lions are at the point where they're so desperate that they have to trade right now. But keep an eye on, and I thought it was sort of an intriguing concept from Chris Long. Keep an eye on the Lions for, yes, maybe looking up and saying, we do need another threat on the outside. We love Khalif Raymond, but he's more of a slot guy. Tom Kennedy, more of a slot guy. Isaiah Williams, more of a slot guy. They had Josh Reynolds the last couple of years. But Cooper and Sutton would be upgrades for sure. But again, this week, if the Lions get great production from Khalif Raymond or Jamison Williams, and Laporta is back being the guy that they expect, then we can maybe table this discussion. But this was a very reputable show. It's a guy in Chris Long that really knows the league and said, look, the Lions need to maybe in the next few weeks as we get closer to the trade deadline, pull the trigger on something like this. So those were 2 names that came up. And you watch, again, you look at rosters on teams that have no chance. I remember I was watching the Patriots last night, right? I know New England won their first game and they beat Cincinnati in week 1, but watching them last night, that's a really bad football team. That's a football team that doesn't have a lot of talent, rookie coach, and got absolutely schooled last night by the Jets. And the Jets didn't even play their best football. I mean, Garrett Wilson was kind of taken away. So regardless, they were hitting Conklin, the tight end, and the guys out of the backfield, Allen and Hall. And Aaron Rodgers looked pretty good. Boy, those Thursday night games with Al Michaels are tough to listen to. Al Michaels is such a legend, been around forever, but he just sounds so disinterested. I guess a lot of times, too, the games are blowouts on Thursdays, but I don't know if anybody else noticed that yesterday. Chris Myers, by the way, and Mark Schlereth will be on the call for Sunday's Lions-Cardinals game on Fox. All right. Coming up next, let's do this. our call of the day. We'll do that next right here on a Saturday. Friday. I don't even know what day it is. Friday, Locked On Lions. But first, Locked On Lions, we tell you about our friends at PrizePicks. It is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you got to do is pick more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can do this tonight watching the Tigers and the Orioles game. If you think Anthony Santander will have less than a 1.5 hits or more than 1.5 hits, you can bet on that. It's daily fantasy made funner, more fun, so you can watch these games and have some picks as you're going on. By the way, PrizePicks is the best way to get in on action on state sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. They invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks does not hit. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Dan Campbell today was asked about his home life situation and having to move, and the report that came out in Cranes about some fans, and this is unfortunate, that found and discovered his home address. Some fans even called in contractors to bang on the door. Campbell would not really comment on it today, said he loves the fans, but he's not even going to get into that. It was an article that was in Cranes the other day. All right, Lions and Cardinals coming up Sunday, 4:25 at Ford Field. If you go to speakpipe.com/dairy podcast page, you can leave a voicemail. And this is our call of the day. Let's get this queued up from the old SpeakPipe. I love how I queue things up to play for you, and it fails me. All right, here we go. This is our buddy Alex checking in on the SpeakPipe at speakpipe.com/dairy podcast page. Here is Alex Van Riper.
Hi, Matt. This is Alex out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Longtime everydayer. I just wanted to get your opinion on what seems like regressing Lions offense. And if you think that maybe Jared Goff's poor performance over the first 2 games is attributed to not having or losing Josh Reynolds with him going to the Broncos. Do you think it's going to take time for us to get back to where we were last year, with him needing to get all of his timing figured out with Tim Patrick or Allen Robinson, because we haven't really had anybody to replace him that has consistently been on the field? I just wanted to get your opinion on that. Thanks, Matt. Have a great day.
All right, there's our call of the day from our SpeakPipe voicemail, Alex Van Riper from the west side of the state. Thank you, Alex. Great question. Look, I'm not going to sit here and hold my breath and tell you that Isaiah Williams, Tom Kennedy, Tim Patrick, Donovan Peoples-Jones, any of those guys are going to Allen Robinson, the pride of Orchard Lake St. Mary's. Big St. Mary's CC game tonight. Shout out to John Kolarczyk, big offensive lineman for St. Mary's. Great kid. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that any of those guys are going to beat Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds was really solid for the last couple of years. Not spectacular, and I get it. He got more years, more money from Denver. But yes, I think not having Josh Reynolds out there is hurting Jared Goff a little bit. The hope is that a guy like Isaiah Williams, who had a really good training camp, or a big body like Tim Patrick, gets his sea legs under him and becomes that Reynolds type. But you can definitely see the first couple of weeks, it has not been a comfortable Jared Goff. I don't know if it's because Reynolds is gone and that was a guy that was a security blanket for him or not. But Jared Goff is extremely capable, and Josh Reynolds is not Jerry Rice. But I'm not sure anybody on this current roster can live up to what Reynolds had done the last couple of years. I just don't know. I need to see it. I need to see someone step up and make a play. Also need to see the offensive line do better. I was reading Justin Rogers today at Detroit Football Net, and he was talking about how Frank Ragnow really had a bad game this past Sunday and how the Bucs did a good job on him. And Frank, who's usually always rated near the top at PFF, just struggled, just didn't have a good game. And there was interior rush coming into the face of Jared Goff so that he just was not comfortable. There's one thing we know about Arizona. While they're a tough team and an improved team, not a great defensive line at all. So, I like the Lions to win. I think Goff will get it going again this week, but I do not think it's going to be easy at all. All right, that'll wrap up this week of Locked On Lions. Don't forget, I will be with you following the game on Sunday, as will Jake Riepma, who will do a Lions postcast on my channel and also at Locked On Sports Detroit. That is immediately after the game live on YouTube. And then my podcast will come on. We'll do a Sunday show, probably an hour or so after the game. Sunday night, when the Lions take on the Arizona Cardinals out of the Red Sea there in Glendale. Hope everybody had a great week. Have a great weekend, everyone. Can we get some rain? I just need an hour of rain for my lawn. And we'll be back again Sunday.